And what's Christian Roland Wallace's status right now, and how have you seen that competition at cornerback kind of play out this spring?
Uh, yeah, Christian has had a great offseason. He twisted an ankle the first day of practice. Nothing serious, but hasn't been able to get back in the competitive drills for us yet. So excited to see him. You know, he's a hard worker. He was really impressive in the um, all of the off-season drills that we did, the conditioning drills, the strength testing, some of the competitive stuff, some of the on-the-field work. I mean, you notice him. I mean, I've noticed him even quite a bit from the opposite sideline, you know, during the game last year. So excited to see him. The corner competition's been good. You know, it's been we got more bodies, more talent there. And I've been to Ceyair Wright's been one of the, I would say one of the it's not a surprise. He's been one of the, to me, kind of breakout players. It sounds weird to say a breakout player for a guy that I think started 9 games for us last year. You don't typically say those things together, but his his improvement and some of the playmaking that he's had has been as substantial. The difference has been as substantial as anybody on our roster through 6 practices. I mean, uh, he had another interception today. He's had multiple here early on some great plays, playing more confident. He's got stronger. It's what you hope would happen for a guy that got some phenomenal experience and game reps last year, but really been pleased with him. Damani's been back, been able to take a lot of reps. He's done well. Jacoby Covington, another guy that really came on at the end of last year and has practiced very, very well for us here so far. Fabian Ross has really taken some nice strides. Been excited to see him, and think he's done some pretty nice things here early on as well. So that's a good group. Obviously, I'd be excited to get Christian back and get him into the mix. But it's there's it kind of be the theme defensively. I mean, there's more talent, there's more size, there's more strength, there's more competition on the field at every position right now, and corner is no different.
Thanks.
Adam?
Lincoln, sticking with the DBs, what was your reaction last year, the first time you saw Zion like on the sideline dressed up despite being injured for a game? And what have your impressions been of him first couple weeks of camp?
Like getting a Christmas present and knowing that you can't use it like for a whole year. He fills out the uniform pretty well. And he's such a great kid. I mean, great family, great kid, like checks all the boxes physically. He was one of those guys that last year before he hurt his knee and just like summer workouts and the guys would go out there and throw. You always can tell like some of the young guys that are going to have a chance to contribute early because the older guys start talking about them. Like right when we get there's a little bit of a buzz, and he had generated that among some of our older players. So we were excited, obviously, last year for the impact he would have made for us, and he's handled the injury really well. He's stayed really positive. He stayed really engaged, which is tough to do, especially for a young guy. He's been able to do everything this spring but the full contact. So, I mean, he's still able to do, 75-80% of all that we're doing, which has been great. And I know he's dying to get in there and team and do some full contact, but yeah, impressive. I mean, he's got an impressive size, strength, and speed combination. He's a really smart kid. He got a unique perspective last year, and it's been cool to see him use it. He's done a really nice job so far.
Antonio?
Lincoln, just curious, what have your early thoughts been on Christian Pierce or on Pierce, the safety?
Yeah, Christian's done well. He's been of the young guys, I would say, one of the more advanced, I would say, early on. The thing that stands out about Christian's physical. Like we had inside drill last, I guess, Thursday, and he and Barlow ended up the way the run played out, like one-on-one in the hole. And it was like, and Barlow's a big dude. I mean, right. He's Darwin's thick and really he's gotten stronger. He's playing well. And they both met each other. And I mean, it was like a complete standstill. And it was a shot. And it was impressive. Like, because Darwin, it runs low and behind his pads, a lot of power. I mean, Christian met him and they just stood each other up. And it was most like freshman safeties that wouldn't have happened. Like, it would have got knocked over. They got driven back, ran over, and kind of caught everybody's attention. Like, okay, he plays pretty fast. He plays physical, plays fearless for a young guy. He's still learning, certainly the defense, which is to be expected, but we've been very pleased with what we've seen up to this point.
I'm going to assume Ryan's iPhone is Ryan Karchi.
You would assume correctly. Thanks. Lincoln, I know you talked about sort of, adapting to whatever the NIL situation would be and how that landscape would change. Obviously, it's changed a little bit at USC over the last 6 months or so. I guess I just wondered your thoughts on where that situation stands with USC.
Yeah, no, it has changed, and I think to be expected. I think it's been a real positive. I think, what in a sense what has happened is which I think we all knew at some point was going to happen. And you got to realize, I mean, I came in here, on Boulevard. I probably came in here halfway through the evolution or the construction of Boulevard. It was obviously things were already rolling, and I think pretty quickly we all realized that our NIL organizations were going to need to get under the USC, kind of get within the USC family, I guess, if you will. And I think the thing that's maybe caught us all a little bit by surprise, I didn't expect it to happen that quickly. But obviously those transitions are happening. We've got a couple of different groups that have popped up that are supporting and are going to support our guys and our athletes and want to be able to give them opportunities, which is really, really cool. And I think it's going to be a great thing because I think, you're going to have, some of these different organizations that are going to be run by USC people and for USC people. And I think a lot of our people are going to be excited about getting behind that and supporting that. So I know there's been a few things revealed with a few of them, and I know some more news upcoming here pretty quick, which I think is going to be nothing but positive, and excited to see, all of in twofold, right? I'm excited first to see all of the Trojan fans out there, everybody that supports our program, excited to see, them really jump on board and really, help push these groups along, especially seeing them again, all under kind of the USC label. And then continue to see more and more of our guys getting opportunities kind of outside of the USC world and taking advantage, as we've talked about before, being in Los Angeles and being in this area. And we're getting a bigger percentage of our guys that are getting those types of opportunities, which is really, really cool. And I think, when you had some of the team success and people have seen a little bit of proof of concept, compared to a year ago, just from us as a football team, people are going to want to be associated with this university, this athletic department, this football program, and that's very clear. And so I've been, I say it's all happened even maybe a little faster than I expected, which in my mind is a good thing. It's going to be a great thing on down the line for our players. It was going to be a great thing whenever it happened. It's good that it's happened now so that our guys right now can benefit even more. Excited to see it kind of all unfold here in the next several weeks.
Thanks.
Eric?
Lincoln, Brendan Rice finished the season with that performance in the Cotton Bowl. What have you seen from him in terms of maybe carrying momentum into the spring, especially with Jordan Addison and that production not there anymore?
Well, I mean, I think he and a lot of our receivers, since the opportunity, right? Like it's we've got some good rooms right there. But we don't have we lost a little bit of production, obviously, with with Jordan and obviously Bynum leaving and Kyle leaving, and there's obviously been some changes in that room. So I think they sense the opportunity at hand, and so it's still going to be very, very competitive. Brennan's had a good offseason. I do think that a game like that can be a confidence builder, but you still got to go back to work, and you gotta spring is a chance to kind of reset and really try to build on some of that momentum. So I think some of the trust with our quarterbacks in him is certainly, guy goes and makes some of the plays the way that he did, is a really good thing. And he's always had the ability. He's getting more polished as a player, and and then we're just when he's really consistent, he's really a good player. And so that's what we're going to continue to push on, because he does have some outstanding ability, and as we all saw, can make a lot of big plays.
Keely?
Just circling back on Ceyair, is there anything you can attribute his improvement to, or is that does that come with having 9 games under your belt?
Competition certainly does. And I think just for Ceyair, he started a lot early, and then he didn't play as much at the end of the season. Jacoby kind of came on. Ceyair had his ups and downs throughout the year, which a lot of first year guys do. And I think he's like a lot of guys on this team right now, that there's a little bit the realization that, whatever I did last year, it's probably not going to be good enough to get me on the field this year. Like, if I'm going to go do this, I got to go. And I give him credit. He's had a really good offseason. And the word I would just use watching him practice, and here through 6 practices, he just practiced more confident. I think, Dante and Alex have done a really good job with him. I see that kind of across the board, defensively right now. I think that, group is guys you got a lot of guys like Ceyair in that same category that are playing more confident. It's amazing. You can take the same player, the same call, the same scheme, the same techniques, everything. And if he does all those things with confidence, the product can be like 2 completely different things. And that's, that's what we're starting to see out of him and several other guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then in turn, you start putting that together, and then the whole product, has a chance to play really well. And so he's done a great job. Like I said, it's 6 practices in. He got to keep it going. But he's certainly been one of the most improved players. And I think confidence has a lot to do with it. And I think some of it too, not to get too long-winded, but some of the confidence comes from the physical gains that these guys are making. Right? Like I've told you guys a lot, like secondary is too skinny, right? We could run at some length at some positions, but not enough strength, not enough power. And some of these guys' bodies are starting to change. Ceyair puts on muscle. He puts on, his strength numbers are a lot different. Kalen's done that. We got a number of other guys. Latrell's done that. And so, and others, but you start to see like, all right, I was capable of this before, but now when I go do this, I'm getting there a little faster. I've got a little more pop when I get there. When I jam a receiver at the line, I'm really like feeling me shut somebody down at the line of scrimmage. That confidence starts to build, man, and they start playing the game to make plays as opposed to trying not to screw up or trying just to stay in the right position or just not get beat as a corner. And it's been fun to see Ceyair start to take some of that confidence and really run with it.
Mark?
Hey, Coach. Are you able to get everything you want out of the offensive line so far this spring? When we spoke to Mason earlier, he said he was looking strictly at right tackle. And I know you're missing a couple of guys right now early in camp. Is there anything you can update us with as far as that's going to the left tackle spot?
Yeah, we're Cortland Ford is not full go right now. He's been a little limited in the contact he's been able to do. He had to have an off-season procedure on his hand, and so that's held us back a little bit. But Jarrett Kingston was limited early, but he's full go now, so that's allowed us to rep those guys a little bit more. It's been good for those guys at tackle. I mean, we've got to see a bunch of Tarquin up to this point. We've got to see a lot of Mason. certainly at tackle. We've gotten to see a lot of Elijah Page. And then still, certainly like we did some last year, toying with moving Monheim around, and he's obviously got the ability to do that and did it a lot for us, during the season last year as well. So, those four have gotten most of the full contact snaps at tackle. Obviously, we're excited to get Cortland back because he's had a really good offseason and is he shed some weight and he's moving well, and so we're hoping to get him back, full go here, hopefully like the back half of spring and get him some reps. But those four have taken a lot of reps at tackle. 6 reps, 6 days in. They've all had some good. They've all had some bad. Elijah's done a good job for a young guy. You could tell Tarquin's played some ball and certainly has some ability. So we just got to get him adapted to what we do. But he's shown some very positive signs as well. And Mason's improved. I mean, he's gotten stronger. He's playing a little more confident. In some ways, kind of like Ceyair, although he did not play as much as Ceyair last year. But you could tell he's, starting to grow up, starting to really understand the scheme. He's starting to get a little more confident in his body. And he's taking steps every day.
We're going to wrap up with these final 3 hands. We'll go with Greg.
Coach, you said that you had planned to be more involved in the defense. Can you give some specific examples on how you've applied that to spring ball?
Yeah, I mean, one would just be this off season. I mean, I know I've used kind of this analogy a lot, but I think it applies. Like, what was I doing this time 12 months ago? Not a lot with the defense. I mean, not a lot. At this point, it was, program-wide stuff. You're trying to get an offense installed. You're trying to build a roster that, just to be able to try to compete and win a few games. And so it's been good year 2 to be able to have a little bit more time, to be able to do the things that I have to do on a daily basis, and really, spend a little bit more time with our coaches, with our players. That's been a real positive. I've been excited to spend some more time in the staff room with the guys. And again, yeah, it's been kind of fun to know what you have in a lot of ways and be able to evaluate, sit there with the guys and evaluate, this player, this position, playing this scheme, this technique, and how does it all piece together, and how can we take the group that we have and produce an elite level defense. And that's a fun challenge, man. That's one of the reasons we love this job, is being able to get in there with a great group. And, and I think now, the familiarity with the defensive staff and kind of the combinations in there. And it's been great to add Greg Brown to the mix. He's been, he's been adding somebody with his experience level, and the success he's had at just about every level of football has been great for our room. And so now I've really enjoyed it. I have, and also been nice here, even just through practices, being able to get down there with those guys a little bit more, helps me evaluate, helps me give feedback to them. And yeah, so there's some of that. And I've certainly been able to spend a little bit more time with those guys, with our defensive players, just them specifically on the mentality side of it. And I think that's obviously a huge part of my job. And because again, you can have perfect scheme, perfect technique, perfect fundamentals, all that. If the mentality is not where it needs to be for every individual player out there, the product's not going to look the way it needs to. And so, yeah, some great discussions with these guys. I'm excited about the edge that we're competing with right now. We do that, we're gonna make some big strides if we can continue to sustain that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Looks like we only have time for one more. So Ryan, you had your hand up first.
We can do them
Thank
both,
you.
Katie.
You do both? Okay. Ryan.
Where does Corey Foreman fit in this year, moving off of rush end, and was changing his body part of the offseason plan for him in any way?
Yeah. So we're playing him. We're playing him right now at end of the spring, which has been, been a little different. I mean, one, it the way we're structured right now defensively, it's moved his position room, and so he's been in there with Coach Nua and some of the other guys, and yeah, Corey's had a good camp so far. He really has. He's been impactful. What's starting to add up for Corey and I know when you guys asked about him in the fall, we referenced this a couple of times, is he's been able to stay on the field. He's been able to stay in workouts. He hasn't had a lot of times where he's in and out of stuff. And so what happens is you're starting to see him stack good days on top of each other, and the improvements and the consistency that he's been fighting for, and we as a staff have been pushing him for, those things are starting to happen. Like he is improved and is such a better player right now than he was 12 months ago. It's not even close. It is not even close. And the kid is really, he's working hard. He's really taking some steps. He's been a more consistent playmaker 6 practices in. His good plays have been better, and there's not been nearly, before he'd have some wow plays, but then it would be, a bust or a mental lapse or a missed assignment or whatever the case may be. He's learning to be able to sustain that because he's staying on the field more. Again, he's doing all these things, and he's just become more consistent at everything. And that's, great players, you got to have that. So excited about his progress, really. As excited as I've been in all the time that we've been with Corey. And so, he's 6 practices in, doing well. He closes spring strong, stays healthy, stays on the field, keeps getting reps, has a great summer. He ought to be primed to be a disruptive player for us this fall. No question about it.
Thanks.
Last one with Antonio.
Hey, Lincoln, this is more about recruiting. Spencer, Caleb, and Malachi, signing them every other class. I know kind of the perception with you is you only want like a high profile quarterback every other class. I was just curious, kind of what would be the factors that would lead you to, recruiting, a high profile guy and back-to-back classes?
No, I'm definitely not against it. Honestly, Antonio, like throughout those years, it's funny, like there's been several of the years where there hasn't been a guy that I've just like totally said, no, he's the guy. Like, and it's kind of some of the perception is, oh, well, they only try to recruit a really good one every other year. Have we occasionally run into guys that don't want to come because a high profile guy came in the year before? Absolutely, we have. But like, I love knowing that on the front end, because that tell me the guy's scared to compete. And if he's scared to compete, this ain't the room for him. And so that's been a great, like, revealing factor for me. Like, I love having good players in the room, one, because obviously it's good having good players in the room. Two, it's like, if somebody comes in there, that means they're not scared to compete. And you kind of know what they're made of before you even get in some of those situations with them. And some of those years where we didn't take a guy, that was the case. And even if we did offer a couple of guys, maybe they decided it wasn't for them. And that's okay. I mean, like that's no problem. But taking, really good quarterbacks in back-to-back classes, I'd love to do it. I mean, I'm going to try to take one every year, whether it's a transfer or whether it's a high school guy or a JUCO guy or whatever it is. I'm going to always try to take one, just because there's so much movement in those rooms year to year. So I think it's less about us like strategizing to take one every year, and it's more about, we want to get a guy that's going to be a good enough player. And I mean, our standards are obviously pretty darn high in that room. And he's also got to have the makeup, knowing that he can come in and believes in himself and wants to come compete and do it at the, in my opinion, one of the best places to play quarterback in the country. And when it works out, it works out. So certainly not opposed to it. Just want to try to get the best guy that I can every year and bring guys in that are going to uplift the room and make our team better and help us win championships.
Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.
All right. Thank you all.